Strangers in the night. And that's why I'm on this side of the glass. My name is Mark Rubel. I lived in Champaign, Illinois from about 1960 to 2013. And I'm a recording engineer producer, a musician of sorts, audio educator mainly. Better musicianship with louder amplifiers. It's a cigarette case. It's a guitar amp. Here's a fun thing. This is called a thingamagoop. This is a moving fader system. The faders are showing the levels that we have in the computer system. Well, I always loved music, and there was always a lot of music around the house. When I was about 6 or 7, my dad made a box for us called the Monster, which was a wooden box that had just levers and switches and a car dashboard and all sorts of things that made noise, horns and things. And I think that was an early obsession with a mixing console. You know, it sort of looks the same, just a big box with a bunch of knobs and switches on it.
Come down, doobie-doo, down, down. Break it up as hard to do.
In 1980, some friends of mine and I started a rock band, restarted a rock band called Captain Rat and the Blind Rivets as a scam to get pool passes to the intramural pool at the U of I, which the show culminated in our guitar player, Tim Veer, skateboarding off the high dive with his guitar into the deep end of the pool, which we hadn't warned anybody about beforehand. It ended up with our being banned from the pool, but people thought it was funny, and they asked us to play more shows, and that was 39 years ago, and 39 years of being in the same band is an interesting experience. You don't really expect to be in the band long enough for people to become grandparents, But if you're going to get older, being in a rock band is a good way to do it.
You know you make me wanna shout.
As an undergrad at the U of I had a chance to make a movie soundtrack in a recording studio called Silver Dollar. When I walked into the studio, it was the epiphany moment where the angels sang and a blade of light came down from the heavens, and I just knew it was what I wanted to do. It's a magical place, a recording studio. It's full of, gently blinking lights, and it's always 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's a place where you walk into an empty room and you come out with some music that can live forever. After I graduated, I worked as a booking agent and a musician. And I ran across a guy named Peter Fox Penner. And Peter had a recording studio. He built it on his girlfriend's farm in southern Illinois. And then after she dumped him, all the studio had to come out of the house and was in storage when I met him. So we decided we're going to make a studio in the house that they were renting for $100 a month. So we did. We just took the equipment that Peter had in storage and wired it together and called it a studio. And all the other partners had electrical engineering degrees and real jobs. I had a crazy liberal arts degree. And so I got elected to run the gear and do the sessions, and pretty much been doing that since 1980. So the original studio was 1980, was called Faithful Sound, and we were there for about 3 years. All sorts of interesting projects, and it was an exciting time right around then, the early 80s. It was a great time in Champaign music. I have to say, just about every time is a great time in Champaign music. It's a wonderful oasis of creativity, and being in Nashville, where there's sort of the ultimate talent in the world. There are players in Champaign who are every bit as good as people in Nashville. It's just in Nashville, there are hundreds of them, but in Champaign, really the quality of musicianship, the quality of artistry is just unbelievable. So we're just so lucky to get to be there. So I started Pogo in 1985, started teaching in 1987. And was going strong until 2013 when I moved it down here to Nashville. I was happily ensconced in my studio. The building was paid for in downtown Champaign, and all the gear was paid for. And I had a wonderful job at Eastern Illinois University in a community that I dearly love. But I had the absolute opportunity of a lifetime. I'd been teaching audio for decades at this point, and had the opportunity to start essentially the recording school that I'd been building in my head all the time, just thinking, what would be the ideal recording school that we could come up with, and the chance to build it at Blackbird Studio, which is possibly the greatest studio in the world, and the chance to connect there and to be in Nashville, which is increasingly the center of the musical world and definitely the center of the recording world. To be part of that community, I had to do it. So just when that opportunity came up, with the consent of my long-suffering wife, Nancy, we just sold the building and packed everything up and moved down into this building to start a school. I had no contract, no guarantee, and we made it happen. It was the second best thing I've ever done next to marrying Nancy. Well, recording is fascinating because it just involves so many different aspects, and there are so many different things that one needs to know. I think at the heart of it is a love of music and a love of being around musicians, which is not hard because they're great people to be around. Just to be involved in the creative process is fantastic. There's so many other aspects too, though. There's the psychology of it. There's the music theory part of it, just being able to hear things and have ideas. There's the engineering part, which it sort of looks like that's the most important part, but really all the technology and all the knob twiddling and so forth is really in service to the music and the creative process. I think it's useful in a studio to have somebody who's calm and relatively in control, and can sort of steer from behind and nudge people along the way, but stay out of the process when necessary. A big part of the process really is knowing what not to say, and when not to interfere, and then when to say the things that might be helpful. So I think it's helpful to have the sort of bass player's personality, which is you're supportive, you're laying the groundwork, but you're not necessarily, up front. Although I'm a little different on stage, this is the costume. The stage is actually the real me, but that's a different story.